What's the difference? What's the difference between liberalism and leftism then? Like this new term that people are using today, right? Leftism. And it seems to be those who are maybe liberal but against free speech. I'm not sure. Do you have a...
I mean, there's sometimes there's convenient terms, right? We can talk about left liberals and right liberals.
Yeah.
And that's convenient because we know who we're talking about. We're talking about, right liberals are free marketeer conservatives.
Yeah.
Left liberals are progressives.
And not just free market, but also pro-patriotism, pro-patriot. Like I would see that in people. I'm thinking of Dave Rubin. I haven't followed his stuff for a while, but
right. Lots of times they're just incoherent.
He's someone who sort of positioned himself on the right side of liberalism, who's attacking the left, who are attacking,
Lots of times there's a poverty of terminology and of concepts, and so people who know they don't like the progressives, can't find a way of expressing it, and they are grasping around, and it seems like the opponents to the progressives are the individualists, right? But that's not the case. Both sides are individualists.
Okay.
Right. Both sides are. And so they sometimes grasp after. So I had this experience. The other day when I was driving back and forth from work. I listened to talk radio and you get like 5 minutes a day, which is enough, right? Because they just say the same things over and over again. But Glenn Beck was on, and he's at one point talking about God and family and the love of country and all this, and then transitions to talking about Hayek and free market economics. And it's like, well, have you read Hayek? Because what Hayek says is that everywhere where there's not competition, we ought to extend competition into it. Like what he says is that the world of the pre-capitalist world that was dominated by non-rational structures was oppressive, and it was that he actually says in The Road to Serfdom that that's just communism and fascism under a different name, right? And so the love of, or the devotion towards family, community, country fits very uneasily with the right liberal system. They're actually incompatible. Right. And so there's a lot of people that try to hold those in two separate realms then. So they'll say, we have the economic and the political in which I'm a liberal, and then we'll have the familial religious in which I'm a conservative, right? In which I believe those things are real and good. And it's like, well, that's better, I guess, than being a progressive. But the problem with it is that your economic theory is going to systematically attempt to destroy that place of conservatism. Every place where there's a value that isn't monetized is a place to make money. every place where there's a value, where there's a loyalty or a friction point in human society that isn't a part of the market, is a place of inefficiency. And so it's a place where profit can be generated.
And yet we all know what it's like when somebody invites us or asks us to host I don't know what this is like, but women do, a Tupperware party where you're told to sell to your friends.
Yeah, right. So that and I think what we're actually witnessing in society today is more the elites, and this is getting into stuff that maybe...
Do it.
The elites that are dominating our society today are more accurately described as the heirs of big business and capital rather than of the leftists of the middle of the 20th century. They're not communists. Like when people say that, it's like the only reason why you would say it would be if you were using it rhetorically, right? If you didn't mean it.
Who's not communists?
The elites
today.
Okay. Right. They have no interest in redistributing wealth. They have a lot of interest in maximizing the centralization of wealth.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yes.
nobody's proposing nationalizing Apple. Right. No one's proposing that the tech companies, this is not socialism, right? This is radical liberalism, right? If you're going to apply it, any sort of ideological label to it, I think. So, which is a stretch, because once you get to radical liberalism, they're really no longer liberal.
Okay, radical liberalism is what?
Well, let's put it this way. Let's try to put it this way. in the liberal ideal, you have a disinterested state.
Yep.
Okay, disinterested state that's attempting to maintain an umbrella of control under which individuals can move freely and maximize their gain. Mm-hmm. Okay. Whose interest is it to maintain the disinterested state?
Okay, hang on. Whoa. Whose interest is it to maintain? Yeah, probably the powerful. I would suppose.
But why wouldn't they use the state to maximize their own interest?
Well, if they could, they would, presumably.
Presumably. So liberalism doesn't work.
Could you say all of that
again? Well, if the state is this disinterested umbrella under which individuals move, if that's what the state ought to be, you have the problem of, well, who populates it? Who mans it? Who runs the state as a disinterested thing?
Yeah.
If your anthropology you begin with is that everybody is self-interested, where do we find these more than humans that run the state in a non-self-interested way, that run the state in a way that maximizes the ability of the great sea of individuals to fulfill themselves? Where do we find these people? Right. Well, theoretically, they wouldn't exist. And so you have to maintain something like it's in their best interest to maintain a disinterested state
umbrella. Yeah.
But that seems to not be the case.
Seems meaning
historically speaking.
Yeah, or even now, right?
Historically speaking, the people who in fact run
the disinterested
state find that it's very much in their interest to make it not so disinterested.
Yes. That is my phenomenological experience of it.
And philosophically predictable. Where it's like, well, it would seem like the liberal state, to the extent that we ever had it, relied upon pre-liberal values, meaning there had to be people who cared about the common good and who were convinced that a liberal regime was the best path to the common good. Okay. And so they would attain power and then maintain it for the good of all. Mm-hmm. But if that's possible, why not have it everywhere?
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.